All right, guys, welcome to round two of Expert Summit's Laser Show. Thank you for joining us. We have a very exciting two debates on tap today. Round one was extremely exciting. Everybody should have gotten a replay. And if you were just joining us for the first time today in round two, you can go to expertsummit.com, go ahead and click round one and buy your ticket, and we will get you all of the replays of all of the debates that have gone through in round one. Basically, also, if this is the first time you're joining us, Expert Summit is a one-on-one live debate platform, kind of set in style of March Madness. Laser Show is all about hitting topics. Obviously, if you have bought a ticket, you guys know that. Our sponsors are Hit Tracks. They are just starting their round of 32 in the Hit Tracks Open. If you guys haven't checked it out, incredibly cool event. I really suggest you guys go to Hit Tracks Official on both Twitter and Instagram. Shoot them a follow. They're putting together amazing stuff. It's super interesting to see these independent ball players, former major leaguers, current minor leaguers just kind of going at it, really testing the limits of the Hit Tracks. While I'm talking about Hit Tracks, I'm going to run a quick ad for them, so go ahead and enjoy. All right, so to give you guys a quick idea of how this works, there were 3 questions. 2 of the questions our debaters were prepared for. The third question will be random and kind of a wheel spin. That being said, the answers will be timed. It will be 5 minutes followed by a 7-minute kind of counter argument and their initial point, 2 minutes, and then a 1-minute full statement to end the question. Let's meet our debaters. Ryan, he won round 1. Ryan, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Ryan Lehr. I spent 12 years with 5 major league organizations, bounced around, played for some independent ball teams, and after retirement, started teaching and coaching with Reggie Smith. And to this day, we go around coaching players and coaches and just have a lot of passion for teaching. So we get to do that for a living, and I'm grateful for that.
Excellent. Casey, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, Casey Smith. Been doing this for, 12 years or so. Got drafted in 05 by the Padres, spent a couple of years in their minor league system, a couple of years in indie ball, and then started coaching full time. And I've been obsessed with hitting. I always joked about when I played, people asked me what position I played, and I said hitter. So it's it's one of those things where hitting was the only reason I was able to play this game. Didn't have a lot of other tools, just kind of average or below average. So being able to then continue my career as a coach has honestly been even more rewarding than it was as a player. Being able to see the guys that I've been able to help and watch their careers flourish. It's the greatest job in the world because you get to go and help people and then watch them have success. So that's why I love what I do. It doesn't feel like work, and really excited to get on here because anybody that knows me knows I love to talk, and especially about hitting. So really excited to do this.
Excellent. So that being said, we're going to jump right into this. Ryan won the coin toss. He will get to answer question 1 first. Ryan, the question is, what's the importance of posture upon landing and throughout contact? Do you believe in an ideal spine angle or amount of tilt or side bend throughout the swing? Audience, you can see the question in the chat. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, so spine angle is a critical part of the swing. As I shared with you in those 3 slides from a Golf Magazine article we did on research, everybody has their own unique posture and spine angle. This is something I wish I would have learned earlier in my playing career. Didn't really learn it until the end. So what ends up happening is the bat will always track a path. Can you hear me? Okay, there we go. Yeah, so if you go to the next slide, please. One more over to the next one. So why spine angle is so critical is the bat will always track a path perpendicular to the spine. And what I mean by that, you'll see that at contact, the bat will be perpendicular to the spine and parallel to the shoulders. And in setting the spine angle in your stance, all your body has to do is turn to get on plane to meet that downward pitch angle. This is what's really been lost in hitting now, and why we're seeing so many strikeouts, because hitters are trying to lift the ball unnaturally to get the ball elevated. So guys can't hit that high pitch because they're trying to force it. So you'll see every hitter has his own optimal spine angle. So left here, you'll see Dr. David Wright. He's a golf pro, world renowned in Mission Viejo, California here. He's got one of the top golf schools in the country. You see Reggie on the right. We did a lot of research together in balance. One of the things we discovered was that this is what we call the power angle, and we've all got that power angle, and that is what our posture is. So Dr. Wright's about 152, Reggie's about 154, and that angle shows up in about 14 different places. This is just fascinating stuff. So if you can go over to the next one, the next one, please. There we go. So you can see that that power angle also goes to Reggie's thigh, and you can see Dr. Wright there with this posture. That would be the ideal posture in baseball too. It would be the same in golf. So what we found that one of the things that we found that it's critical to start with your posture set. You'll see some guys that start tall and they end up having to get their posture down as the ball comes. And the problem with that is that your head is moving, and we don't see through our eyes, our windows, we see through our brain. And one of the critical elements is when you have too much head movement, your brain cannot make accurate decisions and doesn't see where the ball accurately is in space. So, guy like Trout starts tall, but he gets his spine angle set by the time the ball's getting out of the pitcher's hand, so he gets away with it. Now, would he be more consistent without all that movement? Maybe. We don't know. But you look throughout history. Can you go to the other slides of all the guys with their posture set, please? Next one. There we go. So you see Gwynn started there, Boggs started there, Carew started there, and you can see Pujols, Cabrera, and Guerrero. They all have optimal spine angles, and it all has to do with that power angle. So from this position, all these guys do to get to contact is turn their body and maintain their spine angle. And that is the quickest and most powerful route to get to the ball, by maintaining that spine angle. One of the other studies that was done, I wasn't part of this. This was done with Reggie. I mentioned it in the last debate about head movement. He did a eye and brain study that lasted 4 years. That was commissioned by the Dodgers at the Jewel Stein Institute at UCLA. One of the things they discovered, that if you move your eyes more than 4 inches on the coronal plane towards a pitcher, you actually go blind from 20/20 to 2200. So your brain shuts down, and it actually will affect the inner ear. So when we get players, whether it's in Little League or the Major League players, when we start them off and get them set with their posture, the swing just pretty much takes care of itself. And that's what we call being an optimal balance. We don't have to teach a swing. So by starting in balance, as you see here, and maintaining that spine angle, you'll be able to hit every pitch ultimately with the same swing, just at different contact points. The pitch away, you let just get a little bit deeper. The pitch outer third, a little more out in front. Pitch middle, a little more out front. Pitch inner third, a little more out front. And the pitch inside, you have to hit the furthest out front. So it's maintaining that spine angle as your body turns that allows the barrel, the big fat part of the bat, to lag enough and cover those pitches. And when you're a little early or you're a little bit late as a hitter, you'll be able to hit those pitches and adjust to that. Now, one thing that's important to note is that you don't want to change your spine angle for different pitch locations. And I see a lot of that taught now, is that, there's coaches that are teaching to have a different spine angle for a different height of the pitch. You have to be careful, because when you change your spine angle, the bat angle is going to change, and it's also going to affect your depth perception. So optimally, you don't want to change your spine angle approaching the ball up versus thigh high versus down. The one adjustment you need to make on that ball down is adjusting with your legs, which is going to help you maintain your spine angle and ultimately keep your bat on plane for the longest period of time, and achieve a head-on collision that we shoot for every time.
Outstanding. Casey, go ahead.
Yeah, so I definitely agree that posture it's probably one of the main things that I focus on, and it doesn't matter what age the player is. It is critical to creating an efficient swing. As we go through the swing, all of the issues that I see, start early, especially with, high school and pro hitters. It's how they're getting ready to hit that starts to affect what they're doing down the chain. So, being able to address posture early on when they first come in it's one of the things that we do. Now, here's my thing. We absolutely have to have a set posture as we move forward. Now, comfort level and their stance, how they want to get there. We want to make sure as we're making that forward move, though, that we're not still moving through our posture. We want to make sure that we're maintaining that angle. Once we hit the ground and we move through our turn, we're maintaining that angle. And I've got some data from my K-Vest that I pulled up. And it's one of the things where there's no exact as far as throughout the range of movements, every hitter is going to be a little bit different. You can't come in and say every hitter needs to have this. And that was real cool what Ryan was showing with the power angles, explaining the difference in each individual's body and how they're going to move. So, one of the questions was, do you believe in an ideal spine angle? There's a range that K-Vest shows that's, in that 10 to 25 degrees at heel strike that, we kind of shoot for the pro guys. But again, it's not exact. There, like I said, there's a range. The biggest things for me, though, when it comes to posture, is everybody's going to agree that we need good posture. Everybody agrees that we need to maintain it through the swing. To me, that's a non-debatable issue. The issues are what causes them to have bad posture. Why do they have trouble getting into it? Why do they have trouble maintaining it? And so the biggest thing for me that I see across age groups, whether it's 12, 15-year-olds or minor league guys, is bad sequencing, bad timing. And what creates these movements is we get pitch pressure put on us. So our body immediately wants to create space. So in order for us to hit, all right, both from a physical standpoint and a visual standpoint, the body wants space to work. It wants to be able to have room to move. Okay, so where I see a lot of these issues come up is hitters have bad timing, which then causes their body to want to leave the swing to create room. So we shoot for this ideal spine angle, we shoot for this ideal posture, and we have hitters that can't maintain it. We have to address the timing issue first. So if you have bad timing and you're trying to hold your spine angle, you're going to get your knuckles blown off. And so hitters, what they do is they either create room by overturning and leaving the swing or by standing up. So we address, okay, why is the posture not maintaining through the swing? Why are they having issues? Number one, is it timing? Then number two, okay, so they're having, good swings. They're on time. They're still having a hard time. Okay, is it a strength? Is it a mobility issue? Then we go through and we go to the mental side of it. Is it an approach issue? What are they trying to do as they actually swing from a thought process standpoint? And we try to go through all of those steps to figure out where the problem is coming from. Being able to hold your posture through the swing is something that all hitters need to be able to do. But why can we not do it? Why is it such an issue? And why is it something that I see, regardless of the level of hitter, that we have problems with? So we start off, and I've got a ton of different drills that we do. But one of the things that I like to do is just tell hitters, hey, show me where you feel athletic. And what's amazing to me is if I tell them to show me where they want to be at contact versus where they want to be athletic, they're two completely different things. They wind up getting into a position that they think they're supposed to be in, that they've been taught, versus actually getting to where their body is able to work from. You have to have that good hip hinge, that good angle to be able to move, both to create hip shoulder separation and to create shoulder direction. And if you don't do that from the get-go, then you're not going to be able to move through the swing. Now, whether a hitter's been taught that improperly or whether they just don't have the body awareness to know that where they actually want to be is something else that we try to go through. So, like I said, absolutely, posture is one of the most important things that we have to be able to do through the swing to especially have success at the highest levels. If you want to hit big league pitching and you have poor posture or you have the inability to stay in your posture, you're not going to hit. And I've got multiple big league hitters that have come to me that are struggling, that they can't figure out what's going on. And immediately when we address that issue, like Ryan said, the swing starts to clean itself up. Now, that in a big league hitter is a lot easier. When you take a 14-year-old that's growing and he doesn't know his body, you can show him where he needs to be, but he has a real hard time still both getting to that position and staying there because of lack of body awareness. And then that's where those timing issues come in. So being able to address the factors that impact why hitters can't stay in good posture through the swing, for me, is the absolute most important thing, because until you identify the root of the problem, you can say, hey, get in your posture, get in your posture, get in your posture, but they're not going to be able to do it, and they're not going to be able to do it consistently. So once we identify that root of the problem, then we're able to attack it, whether it's a mental thing, a timing thing, or an actual physical, strength or mobility issue. Once you can get it could be a combination of those as well. Once you can dive in and actually address the root of the problem, then you can start to fix it. But that's really where I go from a posture standpoint. Is it is critical, but we have to figure out where the problem comes from.
Outstanding stuff. Ryan, would you like to add anything or counter anything?
Yeah. So, getting to study this stuff the last 18 years with Reggie, one of the great things is learning cause and effect. Because I think that's critical in understanding swing mechanics is understanding cause and effect. So one of the biggest causes to not having optimal posture starts in the ground with your feet. One of the things we found that will cause hitters to have bad posture is when their feet are too narrow. What ends up happening when the stance and the base is too narrow, it's going to cause more of an upright posture. Now, some guys, like Griffey Jr. didn't have to lean as much because of his body type. That was him. Now, like I said, when your feet are too narrow, you're going to tend to start upright more with your posture, and you're going to have to move more during your stride to get to your optimal posture. So the problem is in doing that is that what tends to happen is the swing and the body starts to move from the top down. The shoulders will start turning before the hips. So you get the cart ahead of the horse. The other cause of changing a posture that we found is that when the front leg starts to lock out too soon, and I know so many hitting coaches go head to head with me over this stuff throughout the years, that, you hear all the time to hit off a stiff front leg. And one of the things that we found, I mentioned the electromyograph study, that EMG study Reggie did with Dr. Frank Jobe, is that when you keep the front leg bent slightly at about 15 degrees, and this is the science, you maximize your power, just a slight bend. So when that front leg locks out too early, which will happen when your stance is too narrow, your spine angle changes and everything else essentially starts to change. And that's kind of what I call the dominoes start falling. So when your body starts to lift up and the posture changes, it also changes your visual perception. It's going to affect your depth perception, and it's going to ultimately affect where you make contact. So it's a critical part. And what we found also is that the body's going to have a tendency to end up where it starts. So if you start upright and then have to go down, your body's going to tend to lift back up and try to fight itself and go back to where it was when it started. So there's too much movement. It's not optimal. It's not efficient to have all that movement. And ultimately you have less time to make good decisions.
Good stuff. Casey, I'll give you the final say on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that I find in the cages is, I like to work from a drill standpoint to help guys figure out where they want to be top down. A couple reasons. Number one, it sets our vision. If we're able to look at the top of the zone and work straight to the high fastball, and then everything else is down from there, it eliminates direction. Number two, the biggest issue I see with players that want to start down is they quad load. So being able to feel their rear hip load as they start to make a controlled forward move allows them to free up. When I see guys that want to get down too much, the first thing that they want to do is stand up. Now I've got hitters that start down. I've got hitters that start tall. I've got hitters that preset it. It's all in a comfort level and a feel. So if they really feel that their body is more under control, working top to bottom, or they feel like they want to keep that, set. For me, I kind of let the hitter's body tell me what it wants to do based on what I see, especially once they get pitch pressure on them. So when we start doing velocity, I'm going to really expose where their issues are. So if they get pressure and they start to leave their posture, we've got to figure out a better way for them to get there versus, okay, we have to start here or we have to start here. It's going to be determined by how that hitter's body moves.
That's excellent stuff, guys. We're going to continue on with question 2. Casey, you were going to have this question first. This is a question that actually a lot of our followers have asked us to ask, and I think it's a great one. So, Casey, the question is, how do you teach young kids to produce force in the swing? Any drills that you use to make this more effective? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So, number one, force comes from the ground. The biggest issue where power loss comes from is hitters losing connection with the ground. So, number one, the first drill that I always do is I call it the ISO drill. It's where I'll get guys to start heel to heel. So, it means both heels are on the ground. We isolate their upper body so the legs don't move, and we get them to feel literally trying to push the ground down. Like if you were standing on an air mattress and you were trying to push the air out. I'm trying to push my body against the ground without losing posture and without my head moving so that I can feel that force come up. The best analogy I use all the time is either if you were to take an axe or a sledgehammer and try to deliver a force into a concrete wall or a tree, the movements that you're going to make to do that are going to be extremely similar to what I want to do in a swing. Now, there's rotational components and there's linear components. The biggest issue I see, especially with young hitters, and not being able to deliver force is they have no brakes. So they start to turn and they never stop. So if you want to think about the way that the swing works and the way that we're going to have directional acceleration, if you have an interstate and say that interstate starting on the inside corner, all right, every direction, outside, middle, in, is going to be a different exit, meaning I need to be able to get off that interstate earlier to maintain my direction. So if I don't have brakes, if I can't stop my turn to deliver my energy to where the ball is, I'm going to lose plate coverage, I'm going to lose depth in the swing, and I wind up hitting a lot of balls with side spin. And this is where you'll see a lot of hitters that hit a lot of balls pull side with top spin, but everything they hit the other way has side spin. They don't have any directional acceleration and decel. So we have to start the turn, but you have to be able to stop it. When the turn stops, that's when the arms and the barrel unfold, and that's where our maximum force is going to be delivered to the ball. We're creating energy in the load, we're creating energy in the forward move, and then we're releasing energy through the swing. And so where a lot of hitters have problems is they try to create that force in the swing itself. They try to tighten up. They want to swing harder while they're actually trying to swing versus having a proper load, proper sequence, staying in the ground, and then letting that energy release out through the swing. And this is where posture, stance width, stride width, all of those come into play. If our base isn't wide enough and we don't have room, we're not going to be able to stay behind our front side and anchor the front heel, which means we have no braking mechanism. The front hip and the front shoulder are going to fly. And if you can turn as fast as you want, if you don't stop, the barrel never goes fast. And this is why, guys, the farthest ball they'll ever hit is a ball that's pull side foul. And they'll go, Coach, I just missed a home run, but they can't cover the outside part of the plate. It's because their barrel doesn't actually accelerate until their hips stop and the barrel passes the hands. And so this is the next part of it, is creating leverage. So leverage is at the point when the barrel starts to pass the hands. And I can show you video after video after video where hitters get in trouble is the hands get too far out away from them, the barrel never gets there. In order for us to get to a true point of leverage where we create max force with our barrel, we use the barrel as a tool. The barrel accelerates past the hands to create a force that's stronger than what we can create with just our body. And so therefore, when you do that, you start to use the barrel as a tool. And the best thing that I hear from hitters is when this all starts to work is they go, hey, I feel like I'm not doing anything. And what we'll look at, we'll pull up on the hit tracks, and their easiest swing turns into their hardest and farthest hit ball. And they're like, wait a minute, I don't feel like I did anything. It's because they created energy efficiently. They stopped that energy efficiently to then release it through the barrel with good direction. When they do that, now they start to create what I call effortless power, which is I don't feel like I'm trying hard. And when I don't feel like I'm trying hard, the game slows down. So if I can decrease effort, decrease input, and increase output, my mentality at the plate also slows down. So now instead of me feeling like I have to try as hard as I can to hit the ball 400 feet, I feel like I can take a 50 or 75% swing, which allows my mind to relax. It allows my body to relax, and I actually move more efficiently. So all of those things combined, that's how we deliver a force. You would never walk up to a tree and hit a tree with the axe behind your hands. It's not going to happen. Okay. And you're also not going to hit it with a tree behind your chest, or you're going to turn past the tree. You're going to turn, you're going to stop, and you're going to let the barrel or the axe or the sledgehammer unfold, because that's the direction that your energy comes from. And so where, especially with some of my pro guys that have silly pop pull side, but they have a hard time hitting the ball out of the park the other way, it's because they don't have brakes. They can't stop. All right. So they overturn, they lose plate coverage, and they lose adjustability, especially on the ball away and off speed pitches. So that's where I'd start that at 10 years old and go all the way to big league hitters and teach it the same way.
Outstanding stuff. Ryan, go ahead.
So teaching hitters, whether it's 10 or a major leaguer, we teach it the same way. And as I mentioned last week, 85% of our power should come from our legs. And as Casey said, he's right. The ground is our power source. And in martial arts, it's called chi. It comes from the ground. In order to use the ground as leverage, we have to push into the ground. You start looking at Newton's third law. The more we push into the ground, then the more the ground is in turn going to push back. See so many hitters of all levels, even the big league boys, they're lifting up so much with their bodies and using their arms. This is where you see a big disconnect where kids have to start swinging the drop 3 bat when they get to be about 13 or 14. They can't swing those bats because they have arm swings. So how we teach it? Well, I'm sure you guys remember seeing Adrian Beltre take his knee to the ground. That's the same guy that taught him that. I got to start learning that. That was a thing that Reggie had those guys doing. Piazza, Beltre, Caros, Modesty, all those guys taking that knee to the ground. And I thought Reggie was crazy when he first told me that at 21. So I started doing that, and I saw a huge increase in power. I didn't know why at the time, but now I understand it, that pushing more into the ground enables you to brace your core more. But what it's also going to do, guys, it's going to allow you to maintain your spine angle longer. So what we'll do is, we'll have the kids hit the ball and take their knee to the ground after. This is just an exercise. It's not, they're not going to be doing that in the game per se. It's just going to get them used to pushing into the ground and using their big muscles. The other thing we'll do is have them try to swing a little heavier bat. We got some heavier bats. For the younger kids, we'll have them swing a 31-ounce bat. The high school kids will have a 36, 37, 38-ounce bat to engage their core and their legs more during their swings. So the biggest benefit of using your legs is you're going to be able to hit the ball where it's pitched and hit the ball with power and authority and efficiency. You start swinging with your arms, you're going to see a lot of full side ground balls, a lot of rollovers, a lot of pop-ups. You start to get disconnected. One of the other things that we found in research is that the more of the back foot stays connected to the ground, the more power you're going to have. So, guys do get their back foot off the ground and do whatever you want to call it, the scissor, your back foot slides forward, but there's more variables than I think most people understand about that. The variables, which are back foot, how well did they see the ball? What pitch were they looking for? Were they fooled? But the most powerful way to hit the ball is by keeping the back foot connected to the ground as long as possible. That's going to allow you to use the legs even more.
Excellent. Casey, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, to touch on what Ryan was talking about with the back foot, no, absolutely. Trout is probably one of the best I've seen in the big leagues at holding the ground with his back leg as long as possible. You're using that force from the ground. It's driving up the chain into your rear hip, which is where everything comes from. The other thing that happens when you leave the ground early is you reduce adjustability. So the back hip travels too far. You put pitch pressure on yourself. Now you can't get to pitches, especially on the inside part of the plate. The one thing that you have to be careful of is when the back foot gets stuck. So if the back foot just spins, especially if you watch the direction of the rear heel, if it works rearward throughout the turn, you're losing direction, you're going to lose adjustability. So we've got to make sure that the rear hip, the thought process I tell guys is to feel like your rear hip is going to rip your back heel off the ground. So many guys want to get to the toe and push. I want them to try to feel like their hip is going to pull the heel off the ground, which gives them that proper rear heel release. So, the back hip's the back foot's going to travel on an inside pitch, very small. Back hip's going to travel on a off-speed pitch down and away, might travel a lot to give us more room so we don't run out of barrel. If you think about the way the back hip works, and if you stay stuck in the ground and just turn and the pitch is soft and away, you run out of barrel. So sometimes that foot's going to travel more, sometimes it's not. And where Ryan talked about the scissors showing up, that's the brakes. So when that front hip holds, back hip releases, but it releases with direction. And that's where you see some guys, I think about Suarez and Tatis, when they release with good direction, that's where you see the scissors show up. But, for me, when I'm training this, we use heavy bats. The Pro Velocity bat's actually one that I've started using a little bit recently that's pretty cool. I actually do a drill with a BOSU trainer where I'll get guys to actually try to push down on the Bosu trainer versus pushing off to try to feel like that bubble effect, like I said, with a mattress. And then I'll also have guys where they think about, like, if you were to get into a stacked position, I was going to start putting weights on your shoulders, the position that you would be in, both with your legs, how you would feel your legs, and how your posture would be set. That's kind of where we want to be to feel that maximum ground connection. And, not to go too technical, but I know a lot of MLB teams have started exploring with ground force plates and being able to see how a hitter both applies force into the ground, when he shifts his weight, where it's at in the sequence is really telling to how efficiently the guys are using ground force and when it's happening through their swing. Because you can put a lot of pressure there, but if it's at the wrong time, it's not going to help you. So that's kind of where we go to the training side.
Outstanding. Ryan, would you like to have the last say?
Like I said, that scissor move is a result of something. It's the effect of something, and typically the guys that do that tend to have a close stance. You see Trout cuts himself off, and he's able to get away with that because he's stronger than most human beings are. And one of the things that getting some orthopedists involved, too much of that scissor causes damage to the spine, and Tatis had a back injury last year. His back foot was coming off the ground a lot. This year, I watched him closely. His back foot staying more connected to the ground than it was last year. And just, we're watching quite possibly the best player in baseball. So staying connected as long as possible to the ground with both feet absolutely unequivocally increases your ability to use your legs on the ground and improve your power and efficiency.
Guys, that's excellent. So we're going to continue on to our third question. For those who have just joined us, which is a lot of people have been filtering in here, they were prepared for the first two questions. They were given these questions in advance. This last question is completely random. We're going to actually use a wheel, and we're going to find out what this question is. Now, this is the first time that these guys are hearing it, so let me get this up for them. All right, here we go. Interesting. This is the first one that first time we have this question. So let me get this up for everybody while I read it out loud. All right. So I'm posting it in the chat. So the question is, how should hitters reflect on a hitting session? Many use notes or hitting journals to jot down thoughts or things they recognize. Is this something you teach or you recommend? So I'm going to let them kind of reflect on this. In the meantime, I want to bring up our sponsors, HitTrax, again. As I mentioned, they're in their round of 32. Please go check them out on their Twitter, which is HitTrax Official, as well as Instagram, which is also HitTrax Official. Take a moment. They're doing great stuff. It's a great unit. Their website is just HitTrax, HITTRAX. Go check them out. They're incredible customer service and incredible product. I know we were actually talking to Casey before he came in here, how he's on his HitTrax computer. So they come fully equipped. That being said, we're going to go on to question 3. I'm going to read it again one more time. It's also in the chat, debaters, if you would like to see it. The question is, how should hitters reflect on a hitting session? Many use notes or hitting journals to jot down thoughts or things they're recognizing. Is this something you teach or recommend? Ryan, go ahead.
Well, I think one of the big things is it's important to write down what you're learning and what your thoughts are, because humans only remember about 10% of what you learn. The rest of it gets lost. So it's really important to write these things down that you're learning and that you're feeling at certain times. When we do our clinics, we encourage the participants to write down what they're learning, because one of the big things is if players play for other coaches and teams, they're going to hear conflicting information. They're going to hear different things. So it's really easy to get lost from what you're working on, what seems to be helping you. So if you can write that stuff down, you can always go back to your notes on what you've been working on, so you can stay sharper and stay on track with what you've learned from your coaches.
Okay, Casey, you can go.
Yeah, so this is a big one for me. Obviously spend an enormous amount of time in the cages with guys over long periods of time. One of the things that I really preach is taking ownership. I can give you as much information as I can possibly, give out in a hitting session or over the course of a year. But if a hitter doesn't take it and make it their own, it doesn't do them any good. And so, like, I give guys the analogy: if you had Albert Einstein as your physics, tutor, but you didn't take ownership of actually learning the material yourself, you're going to suck at math. So if I'm in the cage and I'm giving you all this information, but you don't take ownership, you don't make it your own, meaning don't use my words, and then also don't lean on me. I try to tell my guys all the time that you are your best coach. I'm not your coach. I'm only information. That's all I am. You are your best coach because you're the one that has to be sent in the box. You're the one that's on the field, and it's very lonely in the box. And if you don't have that information to pull from yourself, then you're never going to be successful. So what I encourage guys to do is, talk to me, have a conversation with me about when I give them information, what does that mean to them? How does it feel? What are they thinking? And then we write it down so that they can come back to it, both positive and negative. There's nothing wrong with writing down, hey, I suck today. Like, this was why, like, my girlfriend broke up with me. Like, this is something I need to focus on mentally better. It's not just mechanics. It's also those feels that are going to affect performance. And then take it a step further and go into the games. As you go to higher levels, especially at the high school and college level, you start seeing pitchers over and over, learning how pitchers are attacking you, seeing patterns. It's being a student of the game. And obviously, Chavis has kind of made this more popular. It's something he's done throughout his career. And if you open that thing up, you'd be like, this is not a hitting notebook, because there's a lot of stuff in there where it's literally, talking about what's going on in his head so that when he's struggling, he can go back to, hey, this is what you did when you got out of it. This is what you did to make you successful. This is how you deal with failure. And then, like I said, from a training standpoint in the cages, I want guys to be able to lean on themselves. And I use the analogy, hey, I want to be an ankle brace, not a wheelchair. If I'm having to do everything for you, if every time you're struggling, you have to call me and go, hey, coach, what's wrong with my swing? I'm not doing a good job as a coach. I'm not enabling you to be your own coach and to be your own player, because I can't be up there in the box holding the bat for you. I've got to be able to give you the tools to be your own coach. And the best way to do that is to write it down so that you can go home and internalize it, because I'd rather you be taking more reps without me there and then coming back to me and go, hey, coach, I went and hit on my own. These are the things I was feeling. What we worked on the other day made sense, but this thought process makes more sense the way I feel it. And so, okay, great. Like, I don't have to be right. There's nothing that says that the way I say it has to be the right way. And this is where the swing up, swing down, spin in a circle, whatever. When you're at the plate, if you're having success, what you're thinking doesn't matter. But you need to know what's making you successful. So if you go to the plate, you have a great day and you go, what did I do? I don't know. Well, how are you supposed to come back to it? So that's where writing everything down and then being able to apply it and internalize it, both in the cage, having a higher focus level when you're at the cage so that you can be able to work on those things and go, all right, look, I'm only going to take 60 or 70 reps a day, but these are going to be super high level focus on what I'm trying to accomplish. And then I'm going to get out versus taking 150 mindless swings, didn't accomplish anything. So being able to have a journal, a notebook, every kid out there's got an iPhone right now. They got that little thing called Notes. I encourage my guys, whether they're using one of the Always Grind books that I'd give out or they're putting it in their cell phone, whatever, they have to have some way of taking notes, because like Ryan said, you're not going to remember everything. If you remember everything that I said in an hour-long session, like, you're going to blow my mind, because I talk way too damn much. So you've got to be able to take those. And even if it's just a couple of specific things, if you go to one of Ryan's clinics, if you could pick up 1, 2, 3 things in a 2-day clinic, like, dude, you just got a ton out of it. You're going to make yourself successful because you can actually take that with you. So that's why it's so important. And if you don't care enough about your own career, then why are you playing the game anyway? Like, that's what the greatest players do, is they make an investment in themselves by taking ownership of their adjustments, by taking ownership of what they're trying to do. Because if you look at anybody that's successful in any sport or business or anything, they're invested in what they're doing. And that's what writing everything down does. It shows the investment that you're making in yourself that will then give you success long-term.
That was outstanding. Ryan, would you like to add anything?
So, one of the things we always tell our players is that it's important to be the best coach that you can be. And what we mean by that is to understand your swing inside and out so that you can self-correct what it is that you need to do with your swing. So I always tell these guys, always be a student, always ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question, because there's 3 components we need to reach excellence. There's 3 components we need to reach excellence. That's purpose, competence, and accountability. And if you take one of those three components out, we can't reach excellence. So I think a lot of what we don't see now is accountability with this younger generation. So it's just important to keep encouraging these kids to show those three components to get excellence. And part of that is writing down what's going on and what you're learning and what you're feeling. And when you start to write things down, your subconscious brain starts to get programmed, and you can formulate new habits through your subconscious mind. So that all has to happen through the subconscious. So as I say, purpose, competence, and accountability equals excellence.
I like that. That's I've never heard that before. Great stuff. Casey, you got the final say.
Yeah. So, the biggest thing with writing stuff down too, is when you go back and you see your progress, it's very difficult sometimes when you're grinding it out on a day-to-day basis to feel like that you're moving forward. It's one of the things that's really cool with the hit tracks, is to be able to see the data. And you come in and when my hitters, they start to compare their notebooks, their thoughts and feels, and then with the data that shows up, it's like, well, man, like when I first came in, like we were talking about this, and now look how far we've come. Now that is not ingrained in what I'm doing. We're not discussing that anymore. It's now a part of my swing I don't have to think about, and I've moved forward. And then when you see the data translated, and that's one of the things that's cool about what HitTrax does, is you can see data from a year ago, 2 years ago in all of their hitting sessions. And it's like, okay, hey, a year ago you started out, your exit velocity was 85, your farthest distance was 300 feet, right? And your average exit velocity was 74 over a 100 pitch session. All right. We were talking about posture. We were talking about stance. Like you had no load. So now we go forward a year and you're able to go back and, okay, look at my journal. All right. Now I'm talking about like my barrel turn. Now I'm talking about pitch recognition. Now it's more so playing the game versus the mechanics itself. All right. And then I look at my data and now I'm at 95. My farthest distance is 405 feet. But even more importantly, my average exit velocity is 92. So my consistency goes up. The top numbers go up, but I'm also becoming a better hitter because I'm more aware of what I'm doing. Like Ryan said, I'm ingraining those things to where it does become subconscious. I don't have to think about it. And when it really, really impacts players is when they go, wow, like I feel like I've just been grinding. Like I didn't even realize, and they take a step back and look at the bigger picture. That's when it really hits home. And so that's the hardest thing for young hitters is they want that instant gratification. Well, when you show them how far they've come over a long period of time, it really makes them understand, how beneficial the work they put in is and how far they've actually come along as a hitter.
Guys, that was fantastic. That's actually going to conclude our debate portion. Just to give you guys an idea as an audience, the three different types. We had a question that first talked about swing mechanics. That was the first question, the importance of posture. The second question was a development question. How do you teach young kids to produce force? And our last question was an approach question. The fact that we had, quite frankly, two incredibly smart hitting coaches talk about three different types of things in hitting. 45 minutes is just kind of remarkable in that of itself. And then another thing that I want to hit on is that this event is not designed to find the best hitting coach or crown the best hitting coach. It's three questions, and the winning and losing component is just adding an aspect of entertainment to this thing. That we want coaches to put their best foot forward. And yes, it does matter to these guys. We have seen people become upset that they didn't advance. But we want to make it very clear that these guys are the best of the best. What they're putting forth is unbelievable material. Please go follow them on Twitter and on Instagram. Ryan, can you give us your Twitter and Instagram one more time?
My Twitter is the Pure Swing SD. And Instagram is the Pure Swing.
So please go follow Ryan. Casey, go ahead and tell us your Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, Twitter and Instagram are both out front hitting. So that's both of them the same spell and everything, out front hitting.
Outstanding. Like I said, guys, go follow them. They know their stuff. You can watch this debate and just be like, man, this is incredible. This information is out there. Take a moment, follow them. Dive a little bit more. If you like them, contact them. See if you can set lessons up. They're incredible at what they do. That being said, judges, please go to your emails. You guys were emailed the voting links. That being said, we're good on our end. I'll see you guys at 8:45. Ryan and Casey, thank you so much for joining. This was an unbelievable event, incredibly informative. It lived up to the hype. This was awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Casey. Thanks, Kenny. You guys have a good night.
Yep, I'll see
Great
you
job,
guys.
man. Thanks.
See you. Take care, boys.